Good evening. Welcome to the first ever Florida Weather Watch YouTube video. My name is Daniel, and I would like to welcome you to the brand new Florida Weather Watch YouTube channel where I will be trying to give my best, simple to understand, yet hopefully reliable views and forecasts on everything that is Florida weather. Since this is my first video, I want to give a little background about myself before I actually get into the actual forecast and the weather for the state of Florida for the coming week, which is what I will try to do every single week during the weekend. I will give a weekly view of the upcoming week to what to expect weather-wise across the state of Florida. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Daniel. I am the owner of the Facebook page called Florida Weather Watch. Uh, and I have been the owner of that page for a few years now. And I have been studying weather since I was actually a wee little kid, back when I was 9 years old, all the way in Weston, Florida, where I got some inspiration after having seen a tornado develop in the city of Weston. And from that point on, 24 years later, I've been still studying weather. I actually, at the school that I teach at, I actually do teach a meteorology course at that school as well. So I've been studying weather for a very long time now. I've been studying weather for almost 25 years at this point. But before I continue, I do want to add a important disclaimer that I am not a certified meteorologist, and my forecasts and my views should not ever supersede those of the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service, because they are the number one authority on protecting lives with weather-related events. But my goal with this channel and with my forecast is I'm going to try to break things down for everyone to be able to understand weather in very easy ways. I'm going to do some visual forecasts as well to try to help you better understand what is causing the weather that's happening in your area and what's causing the changes in the weather in the coming week. And for all those in Florida, I really get heavy into doing live updates and live streaming, especially during the hurricane season when there could be potential threats from the tropics. So you will see me doing live streaming when there are significant, either severe weather events for for all of Florida, not just from where I am in South Florida. But for all of Florida, whenever there's going to be a significant weather event, whether it be a severe weather outbreak, whether it be a hurricane or a tropical storm, or even if it's going to be something very extreme like maybe some very significant flooding. I do plan on doing live streams when those events occur. Obviously, I'm not able to do live streams during the weekdays because I'm in the classroom teaching during that time. But if there is any real significant weather, I will definitely be covering it here on this YouTube channel. So first and foremost, please make sure that you give that subscribe button a click. Also like the video, and also please make sure that you share this out with as many people that you have that are in the state of Florida, or even those that may have interest in Florida weather. Because I definitely do want to grow this channel. I definitely am really dedicated and focused now on getting back to my passion of weather forecasting in the coming months and years ahead, hopefully. So now that the introduction is done, welcome to the Florida Weather Watch's forecast for the upcoming week. It is currently Saturday night at 8:15 p.m. here. And what I will try to do is I'm going to try to make sure that the first thing I show you is what's currently happening in the weather. Because we can't really understand what's going to happen with the future weather without looking at what's currently happening. So currently, as you see on the screen, what you're seeing on the screen in front of you is the satellite imagery from across the Atlantic, the Southeast United States, and then obviously you have Florida right over here. And what these satellite images do is they show us from space what do these clouds look like, and these pretty little colors, these greens, these yellows, sometimes they could even be red, as you see, or black on the scale here, tells us how cold the cloud tops are. Okay. And a general rule of thumb, whenever you look at any of the color satellite imagery, is the more intense that the colors get on the satellite imagery, the colder these cloud tops are, because remember, this is being seen from space. And when you see these colors start coming up, that means the cloud tops are not only colder, but they're higher up in the atmosphere. And typically what this means is that you're going to have some showers and some thunderstorms possibly underneath this cloud cover, depending on obviously temperatures, whether or not the atmosphere is unstable or not. So what you're seeing right now on the current satellite view is there was a very powerful cold front that came through the entire eastern United States, except, of course, us in Florida. Many times Florida gets to say, hey, we're not going to participate in winter. Outside of 2 weekends this winter, we really haven't participated in much with real freezing cold temperatures. And this is the same situation here, where if you were paying attention to the news, you would have heard about the extreme, historic, bitter cold up in the Northeast United States, where Mount Washington and New Hampshire had a wind chill last night of negative 108 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes, I said that correctly. Negative 108 degrees Fahrenheit was the wind chill on Mount Washington in New Hampshire. And that is an all-time United States record. So what you're seeing, and I'm going to do, and what you'll see me do occasionally, is I'm going to be using a pen tool to try to help you better see what you're seeing on the screen, better understand what you're seeing on the screen. So typically on weather maps, you're going to see a cold front, which is the boundary between cold and warm air, represented in blue. So right here, as you can see these clouds streaming across the Atlantic here, you're going to see that there is a cold front right here. And there typically is given a symbol of a triangle or whatnot right here. So what you're seeing right here is that you're seeing that there is a cold front here. What that means is, I know my drawing skills are not the best, so don't worry about that. What you're seeing here is these very puffy little cotton ball looking colors, clouds here, this is very cold air. Okay, this is very cold air that came all the way from the Arctic, and it's coming down over the ocean here. And what that is causing is what's called stratocumulus clouds. Okay, and these stratocumulus clouds usually form when there's very cold air, but stable air as well. And you see it's covering the entire Atlantic, except over here in Florida. What happened is that in the northern part of Florida, you did see some colder air come through with this front. But here in the southern part of the state, what's been happening is, let me go ahead and clear this right now, is the cold front kind of stalled over Florida here. So the cold front kind of stalled right here. The boundary here stalled. And you can see that kind of here where the clouds are starting to come back towards the coast. You're starting to see right here these clouds move in this general direction towards Florida. And what that's doing is not only is it increasing the winds over the eastern part of Florida, where there's a lot of rip currents going on, but it's also increasing some of the moisture. So what's going to happen over the next couple days is, as this front starts to die off, this leftover moisture is going to continue to go over the eastern part of Florida here and produce some occasional showers and some windy weather, some gusty winds over the next couple days before we get into the upcoming work week. And another thing that is very interesting to note on this satellite imagery is the direction of these clouds right here. Okay. Notice how these clouds aren't diving down towards Florida. They're going from west to east practically. Okay. Same thing with these clouds up here. Okay. So what that shows us is that this disturbance right here, this disturbance in the atmosphere right here, where there's extra showers and even snow showers because of how cold the air has been behind this front here, is going to stay away. It's going to go off the coast, and it's not going to affect Florida. So the only thing that's really going to impact Florida is in the coming week, folks, is first of all, again, this dying frontal boundary right here. And then also you're going to notice that high pressure is going to build back in to Florida. And then you're going to see the winds coming in from the east across Florida here. So you're going to see some occasional showers happening for Florida as we come up in the next upcoming week. And this can best be viewed when I go over to the computer forecast models. So now I'm going to switch away from the satellite imagery here where you're seeing all the clouds and the current situation in the atmosphere. And I'm going to go over to the computer forecast models here. And it's zoomed in on Florida here, thanks to my subscription to Pivotal Weather. And also, since I'm a teacher, I need to give credit to my sources. Where I get these satellite images from is from tropicaltidbits.com. I have to give credit to the developer of this website. His name is Levi Cohen. Levi Cohen is actually a senior forecaster now at the Joint Typhoon Warning Center in the Pacific Ocean. He actually graduated, for those of you that are very interested. He actually has a degree in meteorology from the University of Florida as well. And he currently lives in Hawaii, which makes sense since he's part of the Pacific Typhoon Warning Center. But yeah, some of his background comes from the great state of Florida here. So yeah, this is his website, tropicaltidbits.com. Fantastic site to use for anything when it comes to getting the latest analysis, getting latest satellite imagery, computer forecast models. Although with his forecast models, I prefer to use Pivotal Weather and my subscription to Pivotal Weather because it allows me to directly zoom into Florida here without having to, and it also gives me the cities here, so it'll be a lot easier for me to answer questions, especially when I have live streams about city-specific questions that I often get. So let's take a look at what the computer forecast models are going to show in the next coming days. What I'm going to generally do is once you get to this like 138-hour mark up here, that's 7 days out. 144 hours is 7 days out. So I'm not really going to show anything beyond 7 days because the meteorological accuracy of these computer forecast models beyond 7 days is very slim. They're usually most accurate within 3 days. Within 5 days, they're moderately accurate, and within 7 days, 5 to 7 days, the accuracy rate of their forecast goes down from there, and exponentially so. So there's no real point in me going past 144 hours on these models because at that point it's fantasy forecasting at that point, honestly, as some in the weather community would call it. So whenever I show you these models, I'm going to show you the models for the next 7 days. Beyond that, there's not really any scientific accuracy to the models. Not to say that the models can't be correct beyond 7 days, but the odds of that are very low. So what model I'm showing you right now, pivotalweather.com, with my subscription, is the GFS model. And when you watch the television forecasters, they'll sometimes say the GFS model or the European model. Okay, the GFS model is the American model, pretty much. So this was a model made through the NOAA, through the National Weather Service, combining together with supercomputers and algorithms. Sounds very fancy. Um, but this model is the American-based model. Uh, and the two best models in the world that we look at are the American model, the GFS, which stands for the Global Forecasting System, because it is a model that is actually a global model. It covers the entire planet. And the European model, which is called the ECMWF. And for those that want to know what the acronym means, it is the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. So I'm going to take a look at the American model because I think it has a really good grasp as far as to what is going to happen in the next 7 days. There's not anything really complicated with the forecast coming up, except maybe a cold front that will be coming in later in the week. So what this view is showing you is the precipitation type, the rate of the precipitation. Obviously, if you see clear here, that means no rain. You see the light greens here, that means maybe some shower activity. And then if you get into these darker greens over here, and then you may get into some yellows and some reds, that if there's real intense thunderstorms, that's your heavier rain and showers, and sometimes thunderstorms that could happen. Okay, so I'm going to show this view first. This is the precipitation forecast. These red lines here just are about like mid-level information. It's not something that's significant to cover, but for the purposes of my forecasting here, I'm keeping it as simple as possible with you. Okay, I don't want to give you the fancy meteorology terminology and everything. It doesn't make sense to do that. I'm going to stick to the basics and make sure it's simple to understand. So this the time frame is up here at the top, Saturday as of 7 p.m. So right now it has a really good grasp about what's going on, because as you can see, you'll see these this moisture, these showers, and the shower activity off of the South Florida coastline. And when you look at the satellite imagery, you can see the cloudiness and the shallow cloudiness and everything over here near South Florida. So it has a good start going for it. So as we move on over the next couple days, you're going to notice that the moisture picks up over the Atlantic here. So you're going to notice that the moisture oh crap. Let me not do that. Let me go to my pen tool here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is my first broadcast, so maybe some things to iron out. Okay, you're going to notice right here that some moisture is going to be increasing over the Atlantic, and eventually some of this moisture is going to creep in on the eastern part of Florida. It can start to rotate in a little bit over to Florida. But the west coast here, you're going to notice, because of the easterly flow, is going to remain pretty much dry. So going into tomorrow, you're going to notice that the west coast of Florida here tomorrow morning, and the panhandle here is going to stay pretty dry. There's really not any rain or moisture to speak of in these areas. So as we continue to move on through time here, the moisture picks up over the Atlantic coast. It starts going northbound as that frontal boundary that was stalled starts moving. I keep on doing it. As that frontal boundary starts moving up north here. So the axis of the moisture and most of those showers and everything is going to lift up to the north along the east coast of Florida here. So as we step it up through time here, we're going to notice that it actually does get very significant off the coast here. Now, what you're seeing here is you're seeing much more significant shower and thunderstorm activity, even possibly thunderstorm activity, off of Cape Canaveral here near Daytona Beach. So tomorrow afternoon is going to be very unsettled and cloudy across Central Florida, especially the east part of Central Florida. Tomorrow, which is on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. So as I keep on stepping it through here, you're going to notice it goes off the coastline. Some leftover shower activity across Florida. Nothing to really cancel plans for. It'll just be a nuisance. There's nothing really any concerning with thunderstorms, severe weather, flooding. And then we get into Monday morning here. And again, the timestamps are going to be at the top here. Monday morning, nothing. We're going to have a very clear day across Florida on Monday, as that disturbed weather, that front finally kicks off into the Atlantic away from Florida. And then what we're going to watch for in the going into Tuesday is I want you to keep an eye on the Gulf of Mexico here. Okay, I want you to keep an eye on the Gulf of Mexico here because you're going to notice that yet again I did the same thing. Three times a charm sometimes. You're going to notice that the moisture is going to start picking up over the Gulf. This is going to be in response to a cold front that's going to be coming through later in the week. And you're going to notice it coming through near Mobile, Alabama here, and then Pensacola as we go on through time here. So as I go through time here, I step it through, notice the moisture starts picking up over the Gulf of Mexico. All of mainland Florida here stays dry. So Monday and Tuesday here, all of Florida, that's why I chose yellow here for dry weather, is going to remain dry. There's really no weather that's going to happen. The winds are going to be coming in from the northwest, actually a little bit from the north as well, and it's going to keep the temperatures in check. We're not going to see temperatures rise very high. It's going to be warm. It's going to be comfortable. It's not going to be too much to deal with here. And then let me just get rid of this box. And then as we go to Tuesday night, moisture picks up in the Gulf of Mexico, kind of dries out. But then as we get into now Wednesday afternoon, watch off here. This is the cold front. So we're going to have a cold front here. We're going to have some thunderstorm activity along this cold front here. As you can see, this cold front right here, where you're going to see all the greens here, is going to be, actually, again, let me go for consistency's sake. Okay, this cold front is going to be right here. It's going to start moving towards the Florida Peninsula. And you're going to notice in time, as this cold front starts moving towards Florida, it's going to pick up some moisture. It's going to pick up some energy. And you're going to start noticing that there's going to be some pretty strong thunderstorms that could be along this cold front, especially more towards the northern part of the state, where the environment's going to be better for it. That means there's going to be more energy picking up over the northern part of the state. As it gets down to the southern part of the state, it typically starts drying out a bit because it starts losing some momentum and some energy. So I want you to watch the forecast here as I step it up through time. You're going to notice that the cold front is going to start moving through. The showers are going to be starting to build along it, and then you'll see the cold front right here starting to move through Thursday morning. So overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning, it's going to be impacting the Florida Panhandle. Notice the darker greens here. Darker greens represent heavier rainfalls with this. And then as it steps up through time, it looks like the front starts to try to stall over here near northern Florida, but then some of the energy breaks off ahead of the front here. And what can sometimes happen is you can sometimes have thunderstorms and showers and thunderstorms that build ahead of a cold front. And that's something in the weather world that we call a prefrontal trough. That just means energy that goes out in front of the cold front, sparks off some showers and some thunderstorms. And with these darker colors here, those are going to be some more intense thunderstorms at that point. It's nothing at this point that looks generally too severe at this point. And then as you step it up through time, you're going to notice that the cold front still leans back over here across the Gulf of Mexico. Step it up through time again. Cold front still is not moving all that much. So as we get into later in the week on Friday, you're going to notice that the cold front doesn't really move that much. Notice how the cold front started out on overnight Wednesday right over here. And by Friday afternoon, it's only here. So this was Wednesday p.m. Okay. I know my text is terrible on here. And then this is Friday p.m. Okay. So this front is not really going to be moving all that fast because that same system that is exiting the Florida coastline is going to produce high pressure. And some of that wind, some of that flow coming from the east is going to slow down the progression of this front. but it's going to allow some moisture to build over central and northern Florida. And honestly, this is very good news. This is welcome news to have this rainfall over Florida, because one of the last things I want to show you tonight is the fact that Florida needs rainfall. Florida's going to need rainfall because we are seeing drought conditions across the state of Florida. When I go over to the U.S. Drought Monitor here, which is a service from the University of Nevada, you're going to notice that over here in Florida, much of Florida now is under some level of either abnormal dry conditions in the yellow here, or even into actual drought, moderate drought, even severe drought, especially across Gainesville and the Apalachicola Bay area here over Florida. So in the coming week, when we do get this cold front that's going to start coming through, this more moisture starting to build across Florida, this will be welcome news to have some extra showers and thunderstorms. And it doesn't look like it's going to be particularly severe. The temperatures aren't going to change too much. It's going to be pretty normal for this time of year. Temperatures, high afternoon highs across the state of Florida in the mid 70s to the low 80s down here in South Florida. Overnight lows into the from the upper 50s in northern Florida down into the upper 60s in South Florida. But we're not really going to see all that much change happening, except for this front, and this front will bring some welcome news. So thank you very much for tuning in to the Florida Weather Watch's first ever YouTube channel video. I hope this was a very educational video for the upcoming week as we get ready for yet another work week ahead, as we get further into February. And thank you very much for joining. Again, please make sure that you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, please. Share this out with all your friends and family in Florida, or even those that have interest in Florida weather. And what I'm going to always close... Oh, before I continue, please also make sure you like the video. And before I go ahead and close out the video, I'm going to try to keep consistent with this. I had a great cross-country coach at Cooper City High School. His name was Jim Richardson, and he taught me one of my favorite quotes of all time. And I'm going to close every single video out with this quote. And as the late, great Jim Richardson, my cross-country coach from high school, would say, "There will be weather, whether or not." Have a fantastic night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to being your educator on everything Florida weather in the coming weeks, the coming years, coming months and coming years. Thank you very much, and have a great night.